what's our next subject tonight?
Okay, so the next thing we have to talk about is Eric Holder.
Eric Holder, Attorney General?
And AP, the Associated Press.
Okay. From what I understand, Eric Holder and the Associated Press have a meeting in the roads is one of the points where our Attorney General was under giving testimony, and he said he had to recuse himself. But what he had to recuse himself for regarding the AP?
Well, you know, the thing is, I think he wrote a memo and distributed it as you're supposed to do when you recuse yourself. But then everyone lost it.
But everyone lost it.
Everyone lost it.
In fact, he said he didn't even remember where his copy of the memo was.
So there's a memo out there somewhere, and I'm sure they'll find it sooner or later.
But you know that Eric Holder was a federal, it was a former judge. And so if you would think if a judge is going to recuse himself, he would tell somebody. Did he tell anyone he was recusing himself to the AP story?
Well, they forgot that he told them.
Oh, they forgot.
Or he forgot that he forgot that he told them.
Oh, okay. So how?
But nobody knows.
I mean,
I don't know if I don't know if you watched the testimony, but Eric Holder didn't know.
When we're talking
many
about
times
the
in a row.
Wait a minute, hang on.
Or didn't remember.
We're talking about the story where somebody in the Justice Department decided they're going to tap some odd 100 phone lines at the Associated Press because they were in search of a leaker. Right. And funny enough, they didn't find any leaker. In fact, all they did was record phone lines belonging to the majority of the reporters at the Associated Press. So my question is, what were they looking for in that little incident?
Well, like I said, they also did something over at Fox where they went after James Rosen.
You're talking about the reporter, the White House reporter for Fox.
And he was working on a story, I think, about Northern Korea and about someone named Kim.
Yeah, well, that story would involve a person that worked for the State Department who made a comment, I believe, that through clandestine emails and phone calls with Rosen, talking about North Korea, how they would react, in fact, if we put more sanctions on them. But my question to you is, what's the big secret about putting sanctions on North Korea and how they would react when we have literally 40 years of how they react when we put sanctions on? How is that a secret? I'm not really getting that and why they would do that.
According to, I guess it was someone named Reyes wrote the affidavit, but
that would be Reginald Reyes.
Reginald wrote the affidavit, that went to get the warrant for this, went to the judge. Of course, it took several judges to find a judge who was willing to go along with it.
It was the third judge.
Yeah,
that
third time's a charm. Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
And then, so they did a little judge shopping. But anyway, apparently James Rosen was an aided or an abettor and a co-conspirator in the Espionage Act of 1917. So
violator.
So basically, James Rosen's a traitor, right? And so this is treason. And just like Caligula used to have treason trials all the time, apparently we have a lot of treason things going on here. We got the Tea Party are traitors because they're taking, the Kochs are traitors. James Rosen's a traitor, so there's a lot of traitors.
But why would the AP be traitors?
The
AP supported the administration the entire time.
But there wasn't anything in their affidavit about being traitors. They just were associated with leakers, apparently.
Oh, I see. Well, I understand that it's not just that James Rosen was
a traitor.
His lines were his phone lines and his emails and everything were bugged and taken by the government, but his parents.
Well, they're traitors too.
Well, why would the parents be considered traitors?
Well, that's something that we haven't found out yet, but apparently they're traitors.
It goes beyond that, though, because wasn't it Attorney General Holder to sign the affidavit that swore under penalty of perjury that he was a co-conspirator and an aider and abettor to a federal felony?
Well, then espionage, violating the espionage.
But did he tell Congress that when he went in front of Congress?
Well, he forgot about that a bit because sometime after he signed that, I think it was many months or a year later.
Yeah,
he said that as far as the press is concerned, there was no potential prosecution that he knew of. So he might have forgot about it.
Oh, I guess he forgot that he signed the most far-reaching affidavit for a warrant, then judge shopped to get it approved, and then had James Rosen, all his lines of communication, all Fox News lines of communication, his parents' communications, all bugged and monitored because of somebody talking about North Korea reacting to sanctions. Is that where all this comes down to?
Yeah, it gets pretty interesting because, press freedom goes back to the Times-Picayune Publishing Company versus the U.S. in 1953, and the press is supposed to have, generally in the First Amendment, the freedom of expression and the freedom of press are all in the First Amendment, but there are some actual decisions that give the press some protections on this kind of thing.
The founding fathers, Mark.
Right.
The founding fathers said the press is what help stop tyranny in its tracks. If you have a freedom of the press, you have the ability to educate the masses. And so if you're talking about now coming down on the press over something that's news that anyone in our studio would know, if you talked about sanctions with North Korea, my question is, where is this going? What's next?
Well, we don't know yet because I think this is all going to kind of blow over.
There's nothing else to look at. Keep moving on.
I mean, just like
the event's all over.
I mean, I think Attorney General Holder is not really the IRS folks have the Hatch Act to worry about, right? Yeah. But Holder doesn't have to. He can be political.
Well, when you're going back to the Hatch Act, that's the act where you're never supposed to distribute any information that's ever provided to you to an IRS agent through the taxes of one of the citizens.
No. The Hatch Act is to start. I'm not sure I can pronounce it, but it's pernicious. You're not supposed to be sneaky, incremental. Government agents or government bureaucrats, but not the higher ups. Of course, the president.
Well, that's not.
But
it doesn't lead to no. Time out. It doesn't lead there.
But the bureaucrats
so
and things are not supposed to be doing sneaky and gradual things to have political goals accomplished, right?
But wait a minute, isn't lying to Congress a reason to be cited for contempt of Congress?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's possible perjury. I mean, and there's two ways of looking at it. The stories are kind of incongruous. In other words, when we used to play Liar's Dice, when I used to go to sea, we have this. We wouldn't call it blank blank like you call it. We would say, that's kind of hard to explain, isn't it?
Oh,
so it's kind of hard to explain.
Kind of hard to explain
why he testified in Congress under penalty of perjury that he never
didn't know anything about prosecuting a reporter.
The potential prosecution of a press.
He would never be involved. There would be no potential.
And then at the same time, he swore out an affidavit to a judge saying that this guy is involved
a co-conspirator in
espionage. So basically, he's a traitor, right?
Okay, so but I got a question. Wasn't the Attorney General cited for contempt of courts under Fast and Furious for lying to the Congress under Fast and Furious, correct?
Yeah, and I never could understand.
But that wasn't really a lie.
No, I can't really understand why he wasn't taken into custody there, but they didn't take him into custody.
They could have.
But they didn't.
They would have had an issue. There's a very specific procedure. Now, my question is, do you think Congress has got enough cojones to see what they're going to do with this when he lied to Congress again? This is the second time in 2 years. It's blatant lies.
Well, I think that I doubt they'll try to take him into custody for contempt of Congress, or contempt of Congress, but they seem to be shying away from it. And I think I think it's probably I think probably this will end up in executive privilege.
Well, didn't George Bush's Attorney General resign under far less circumstances of this? That would have been Gonzalez.
Well, Gonzalez, they alleged that he had tried to get some.
No, they said he was terminating
selecting judges or terminating judges.
Terminating attorneys that wouldn't follow policy.
Right.
But anyway, let's leave that.